The parable of the prodigal son is one of Jesus' most well-known stories. It can be found in Luke chapter 15 verses 11 to 32. This parable is about a father and his two sons. It teaches us about love, forgiveness, and returning to grace. Let's explore these themes in more detail. The father's love in the parable is truly remarkable. Despite his son's mistakes, he welcomes him back with open arms. This love is unconditional. It does not depend on the son's actions. It is constant and unwavering. Imagine a parent today. Their child makes poor choices and ends up in trouble. Despite the pain and disappointment, the parent still loves their child. They might feel hurt, but their love remains. This is how the father in the parable feels. The father runs to greet his son. Running was not something a dignified man would do in those times, but the father's love overcomes social norms. He is overjoyed to see his child again. This act shows how deep and sincere his love is. This kind of love is rare but powerful. It reminds us that no matter what we do, there is always someone who loves us. In the parable, this someone is the Father. In our lives, it can be our own parents or even God. Reconciliation is a key theme in the parable. It means making things right after a conflict. The younger son returns home to ask for forgiveness. The father forgives his son without hesitation. Forgiveness allows us to move on and be friends again. Reconciliation shows the power of forgiveness.
The path back to grace. The path back to grace is another important theme. The younger son strays far from home. He makes bad choices and suffers the consequences. But he eventually realizes his mistakes. He decides to return to his father, hoping for forgiveness. This journey back to grace is not easy. It requires humility and courage. The son has to admit he was wrong and ask for forgiveness. But it is a necessary step to find peace and restoration. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we might feel lost or far from God. But the parable shows us that it is never too late to return. No matter how far we have strayed, we can always find our way back to grace. The Father's acceptance of His Son shows that grace is always available. We just need to take the first step. This teaches us that God is always ready to welcome us back no matter what we have done. An inspiring message about God's love. The parable ends with a powerful message about God's love. The Father's joy at His Son's return shows how much He loves him. This love is a reflection of God's love for us. It is unconditional and everlasting. God's love is like the Father's love in the parable. It does not depend on our actions. It is always there, waiting for us. Even when we make mistakes, God loves us. He is always ready to forgive and welcome us back. Think of a time when you felt loved unconditionally. Maybe it was a hug from a parent or a kind word from a friend. This love is a glimpse of God's love for us. It is a reminder that we are never alone and always loved. This message is incredibly reassuring. It tells us that no matter what happens, we can always find our way back to God. His love is a constant source of comfort and strength. The parable of the prodigal son is a beautiful story with deep meanings. It teaches us about a father's unconditional love, the importance of reconciliation, and the path back to grace. These lessons are timeless and relevant to our lives today. We all make mistakes and sometimes feel lost. But the parable reminds us that we are always loved and can always return to grace. God's love is unconditional and everlasting. It is a source of comfort and strength. Let this story inspire you. Remember that no matter how far you stray, you can always find your way back to God. His love is always there, waiting for you. Embrace it and find peace in the knowledge that you are always loved. Please like and subscribe to the channel for more ageless wisdom. Please comment as your reflections may help someone else. May this message of love and forgiveness guide you in your journey. Remember that you are never alone and always loved by God.